Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to the reaction for My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Season 8, Episode 6. So we are a day late on this, unfortunately, but at the same time, it's kind of I can be okay with it. Because yesterday I had so much fun at LTU Anime Con that it all worked out. I mean, granted, later in the night after my cousin's birthday, there was a little bit of an accident, but I've already talked about that, so I'm not going to go over it all again here. Um, Everything was still just overall good yesterday, so I'm okay with this. Um, but let's talk about this episode. So, being a day late, do I know anything about this episode? Am I spoiled on anything? Yes. I will say right off the bat, I know that this is a CMC episode. I didn't really see any, like, direct info. Like, I don't know what they're doing. I just know that the CMC are prevalent in this episode, and that it centers around them. Now, if you remember my Season 8 wish list, I have a few things on there that relates to the CMC, and mostly Scootaloo. I want to see Scootaloo learn to fly because I think it's necessary for her character development, and because I do not adhere to the idea that she just isn't able to. There's no in-show evidence that tells us that she's just straight up handicapped in that way. She's just a late bloomer, and it kind of hints at that in multiple episodes. Not going to get into all the details here, but yeah. Second, I want to see Scootaloo's family at least mentioned. Because there's been no mention of her family, other than the fact that they're just kind of not there for her. Now, in the chapter book, it's mentioned that her parents are always away, and that she lives with her aunts. I'm trying to remember their names. One was Aunt Lofty, and the other, Auntie Holiday. Or was it Auntie Lofty? One was Auntie, the other was Aunt. Either way, Lofty and Holiday. And, yeah, they're a canon lesbian couple, by the way. But Scootaloo lives with them while her parents are away. And the thing, though, is this is only in the chapter books. But this show staff have confirmed in the past that the chapter books are canon unless the show explicitly, like, contradicts them. Unless the show specifically contradicts them in, like, a very explicit manner, then the chapter books are to be considered canon. So at this point in time, there's been nothing in the show to contradict that, so we have to assume it's true. That being said, even if they're just mentioned, like even if Scootaloo just mentions in passing that her aunts might be worried about her or something like that, that would be enough for me. Just something like that, even something so small. Of course, I would love to see them, but just something even small enough that it's just mentioned would be fine. It'd be something. But the biggest thing I would love to see with the CMC going forward is a map episode, because the map is called the main six, it's called Starlight, and it's called even Spike. The CMC's cutie marks, their entire life mission is helping other ponies with their cutie marks, or just finding out who they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to do. Wouldn't it make a lot of sense for the CMC to be called by the map to solve a problem regarding cutie marks in that way? I mean, you could argue that yes, they are still kids, and that having them go off on some grand adventure to some part of Equestria they've never been might be a little dangerous. Okay, I can get where that's coming from, but let's be honest. In the world of Equestria, from everything we've gathered so far, when you get your cutie mark, it's basically like the point in your life where you're growing up. You are reaching that point in your life where you don't need to be coddled anymore. Equestria is not this really dangerous place either, so it's not like there's anything that needs to really be worried about here. I think the CMC are plenty mature enough and ready to head out on their own to do this kind of thing. And I think, it would be a great thing to do, not only for their characters, but also for the map. Because the map we don't know everything about it. We know it's grown from the Tree of Harmony, which was the seeds planted by the pillars. But it was imbued with the magic of the pillars, so the magic somehow has some kind of level of sentience, and it was able to create this map, which, like, again, in a some level of sentience, sends these characters on these quests. So with the CMC having these talents, it just makes sense that the map would send them as well. So I'm really hoping for something like that. But either way, another thing I want to see regarding the CMC, I want to see Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon have a meaningful role again. Because I think they've only appeared even once in the background since their reformation. And the CMC just, something needs to be done with that. It really does. But there's just so many things they could do with the CMC, so I still don't know what this episode is about. I just know it involves them. I don't know the title, I don't know the writer, I don't know the plot at all. Hopefully it fulfills one or more of the things on my wish list, though. That being said, I'm excited to see where we go. And I've been talking long enough, so we're going to get into this. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts, and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much once again for tuning in today, and I'll see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, so I do have one notable complaint to mention about this episode before we get into the rest of the good stuff, you could say. Twilight felt shoehorned in. And this hasn't been a huge issue for most of this series, honestly, since Season 2. When Season 2 came along, Lesson 0 kind of retconned the idea of, like, forcing Twilight into all of these different episodes and situations in order to have her kind of be the one to either learn or teach the lesson. Because, you know, she had to write to Celestia. They retconned that with Lesson 0, and then there were some episodes here and there, of course, where Twilight and even other characters were shoehorned into episodes they just really didn't need to be in. But none of them really felt like that, especially not with Twilight. Until this episode. Twilight did not need to be here. She was... her presence didn't hurt the episode, but it came off as confusing. And it actually, I feel like, came off as a little, well, off. This is the CMC's first map episode. They are finally called by the map, something that honestly should have happened before. But it's finally happened. Great thing. And they're called to Mount Eris / Sequestria. So, they go on, and they should have been able to go on their own. And again, I get it. They're kids. And maybe their families don't think it's as great of an idea for them to go alone. But again, this show has shown us that basically getting your cutie marks is being grown up. I mean, yes, they're still technically kids, but they're pretty much grown up at this point. They're doing a legitimate business, basically. We've seen them treating this as a straight-up business in the past, in a couple of past episodes. So the fact that this is now them using their talents in the same way they've been using it, just being called by the map to do so, but the fact that they're kind of being chaperoned almost feels like they're being treated like pre-Season 5 CMC. And I just don't know how to feel about that, because it feels like it's treating them like kids when they're not just kids anymore. It's the same thing as, like, okay, let's say, let's compare them, the CMC, to a 15 or 16-year-old, right? So let's say you're a 15 or a 16-year-old and you want to go to with some friends to a convention. Okay? It's out of state. But your friends, maybe you have a friend who's over 18 who will be driving and all, and you'll be rooming with people while there. There's going to be plenty of people around. But your parent is still saying that, no, either one of their parents or your parent yourself, themselves, has to go as well, uh, just to be safe. See, that kind of thought process at that age is a little bit. Um, I mean, 15 is a little more understandable, but 16 and up, you have to learn to start letting them go. I'm sorry, but you can't coddle your children forever. The CMC at this point would be equivalent to 16 or older. I know that seems hard to believe because they're still so small looking. But they would be comparable to that. Especially in their maturity. And yes, they still have immature moments, but so do the adult ponies. The main six have a lot of immature moments, let's be honest. And adults in real life can be very, very immature. And kids in real life, can be very mature. The point is that this episode almost feels like it's trying to teach a lesson. Of course, the lesson isn't about that, the actual lesson of the episode, but it's like it's trying to tell us that we should be coddling these kids until they're just straight up adults. And that's not a good thing. If you keep doing this, it's not going to lead to anything good. It's going to lead to them being completely spoiled and not being able to take care of themselves. And yes, I know, I'm 26, I still live at my father's house. But here's the thing. It's not because of coddling or anything like that, believe me, it's not. It's not because I don't know how to take care of myself. I know, like, what that would entail. The issue with me is something completely different. It's mental illness, but still. The point is that the CMC are old enough and mature enough to do this on their own. Twilight's presence in this episode, while not actually hurting the episode, feels so unnecessary and so off that it's distracting. It's okay. I said it's not hurting the episode, but I guess you could say it kind of is. It hurts the overall entertainment value. It's not a technical issue, like with the writing or whatnot, as much. It's not perfect in that department, but it's not a huge enough issue to really worry about. But in terms of entertainment factor, it kind of brings things down a little bit. And I'm sorry I'm taking so long talking about this, but it legitimately confused me, like, almost the entire time I'm watching. Every time she appeared on screen, and while she was cute and funny and her moments were generally enjoyable, it wasn't her episode. It wasn't she shouldn't have had those moments in this episode. The CMC, again, it's like, it's almost like the writers are treating them like kids. And I don't know who the writer for this episode was, so I don't know if they're a new writer. I don't know if they're one who have written the CMC before. I don't know. So I can't say. And I'm not going to look it up right now. But let's actually move on to the good stuff, because pretty much everything else about this episode I adored. The imagery was so freaking gorgeous. I kind of side with Sweetie Belle in the argument to the Harmonizing Heights. One, amazing, phenomenal name. Two, gorgeous. I adore the imagery on that. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with Sequestria, but I'm definitely on Sweetie's side of the argument there. But the story was well put together. The pacing was good. The new characters were legitimately entertaining and legitimately well made. I really enjoyed getting to see a bit of the culture of the hippogriffs slash sea ponies. And I also I just loved it in general. It was just such a great, fun episode. There was a lot of cuteness. The song was good. The song wasn't phenomenal. It wasn't anything that really stands out, but it was good. It was legit good. It's not going to be one of those songs you remember. Let's be honest. It's not any This Day aria, or Best Friends Until the End of Time. It's not one of those super memorable songs like those. But it's still really good. um, but yeah, and then there's just a lot of great moments with our characters. Just a really legitimately great problem. Like, I mentioned that my parents are separated, and they're more than that. They're straight up divorced. And I live at my father's place, and my mother lives with her mother, my grandmother. Um, and so they're separate. And the thing is, though, I have never really seen it the way that our new character here does. I've already forgot his name. I do apologize for that. Uh, but I never really saw it that way, as like by being with my father here that I was like betraying my mother or something like that. No, because my mother is still very active in my life. She's still very caring and all of that jazz. She comes and visits all the time. We get to see each other, so it's there's nothing like that's really like separating it. Yes, they're divorced. Yes, they live separately. But I've never kind of viewed it in the same way he did. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I know a lot of people do. A lot of people who live with divorced parents who have split custody, especially, have to face this kind of issue. They feel if they spend too much time with one parent, they're ignoring and abandoning the other. And that it's terrible, but it's real. That's the thing. This is a very real conflict. He doesn't know which side to be with, because he believes that by trying to split his time with them, he's not giving enough time to either. And that's so just real. And I love, I've mentioned before, I just love it when shows like this can take real issues like that and showcase them in such a well-written way. It's wonderful. Um, but all in all, this episode just, it was great. Like, I don't think it's going to be one of those just amazing episodes that I'll be able to rant and rave about like forever. Um, it's not one of the best episodes out there or anything, but I legitimately really enjoyed it. It fulfilled things on my wish list. Um, it gave us more culture and character to the hippogriffs slash sea ponies, outside of Skystar, of course. And it developed just a lot of great ideas within this world. I also just really love the idea of the hippogriff slash sea ponies having that split society, but still loving and caring for each other just as much. They're separate, yes, but they're not separate. They're still one kingdom. They just have... It's basically like... Okay, I was going to say something that actually is not technically accurate. I'm trying to think of a way to put it. Okay, I'm a big superhero fan, you know? I love both Marvel and DC. I love DC more, but I still love Marvel. It's like that. I'm a superhero fan. I'm not strictly a DC fan. I'm not strictly a Marvel fan. I'm a superhero fan. It's the same kind of concept, because here we have the hippogriffs on one side. Let's say the hippogriffs represent DC. Then we have the sea ponies representing Marvel. You may like one over the other, but you can still like both. You could still take part in both. You can watch the movies, play the games, whatever else on both sides. Read the comics, of course. But the point is that both exist. Both are equally as valid. And you don't have to think that you're ignoring one if you spend more time with the other. That's not really how it works. And you could say the same about a lot of other things in a lot of situations like this. This is a really complicated issue that they were able to deliver in such a elegant way, and I really appreciate how they did that. Because it just connects to so much of life. Yeah, this episode was just really fun. I'm going to definitely have to see it again a few more times before I can really get a grasp of my rating for it. If I had to give it a score based on just the initial viewing, I'd probably say 4.6 out of 5. It's really good, but the issue of Twilight's inclusion is still bogs down the entertainment value a bit. And again, it's not going to be one of those episodes, or the song within it, of course, that are like insanely memorable, like other ones. But yeah, still very good. So, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of the split society of Mount Eris / Sequestria? What did you think of the CMC having their first map episode? And what did you think of Twilight being included in it, and how her inclusion, in my opinion at least, felt shoehorned? If you disagree with any of that, or if you do agree with any of it, tell me all your thoughts on that and more in the comments below. And thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie Royal, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
And don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you